destroyed my life. He made me kill my baby boy.
You did not hurt Gabriel.
I suffocated him and he tried blow. And I put him in his bed with bag and I put him in the trash can. He knew I would do it and he pushed me anyway.
On December 20th, 2009, Elizabeth Johnson disappeared from Tempe, Arizona, along with her 7-month-old son, Gabriel Scott Johnson, the baby she shared with ex-boyfriend Logan McQuarrie. A week later, Logan got a curious text from Elizabeth who said that she had killed their son. When she was caught by the police in Miami Beach, Florida, that child was nowhere to be found. She told them she'd just given the baby away to a mysterious couple in San Antonio. And even though the search for baby Gabriel made national headlines, authorities came up empty. So what happened to that child? It is a twisted and tragic story of a young mother who didn't want to be a mother and another woman who was obsessed with adopting that boy, and a father who was left searching for answers, hoping that one day he'd be reunited with his son.
Elizabeth Johnson and Logan McQuarrie were a young couple who knew each other from school. In 2007, they began a relationship. It was a rocky relationship. They fought often. Sometimes they broke up, they got back together. But at some point in time, they found out that they were pregnant with a baby. And on May 3rd, 2009, Gabriel Scott Johnson was born.
After Gabriel was born, our relationship, it wasn't all that great. It was stressful having the baby. Him crying and stuff, she couldn't stand it. She would get mad. It wasn't just a little mad, it was quite a bit. And she wouldn't calm down till she was ready to calm down.
On December 8th of 2009, Logan finally had it. And he decided to end the relationship. And the two of them actually agreed to paternity and joint legal custody.
Elizabeth Johnson was supposed to give up this child for a time to the baby's father. She decides she doesn't want to and drives to Texas and then calls the boy's father and lets him know, I've killed our son. I've suffocated him and killed him and you'll never find him.
I was worried. Like, I didn't know what to do. I called my dad and he said, go straight to the police station.
That was very shocking to even try to comprehend that a mother of a child would write something like that. Our absolute #1 goal was to check on the welfare of Gabriel.
If you have any information on where baby Gabriel could be or any information at all, call this new hotline. It's 1-800-THE-LOST.
When she was finally apprehended in Miami Beach, Florida, Gabriel was nowhere to be seen. She claimed that she had given Gabriel to a couple in a park out in San Antonio, Texas.
Well, do they know more than they're letting on? A Scottsdale couple now being called persons of interest in the disappearance of a Tempe baby. Investigators believe Jack and Tammy Smith know more about the disappearance of Gabriel Johnson than they're letting on.
Jack and Tammy Smith were identified as persons of interest early in the case. Tammy Smith was involved in this in a way that was not in the best interest of that child.
Meanwhile, McQuarrie puts out a national plea.
You know, don't worry about getting in trouble or anything like that. Take him to a fire station, any place, hospital. We're just asking, please.
Tempe police have joined forces with the Center for Missing and Exploited Children to help find little Gabriel. They believe he is alive and are asking the family that may have him to come forward.
This story seemed to be tailor-made for the media. You had a telegenic couple, both young and, attractive, and this child's face. And this story became so gripping because there was a mystery at the center of it. What happened to this baby?
Police in Texas, of course, took all of this very seriously, and they went out and searched landfills and dumpsters and, who knows what, looking for this little boy, and they never found him.
In the Superior Court of the State of Arizona versus Elizabeth Johnson.
The charges filed against Elizabeth Johnson were kidnapping, which is a Class 2 felony in the state of Arizona, custodial interference and conspiracy to commit custodial interference, which are both Class 4 felonies. With regard to any possible murder charges against Elizabeth Johnson, those would be handled by the state of Texas, as that is where that crime would allegedly have occurred. No part of that occurred in the state of Arizona, so we were not able to pursue that.
So, Ms. Ramuno, you may proceed with the state's opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. This case is about the quest to remove Logan McQuarrie from the life of his child, Gabriel Johnson, at the hands of two women. One woman intent on adopting a child or getting a child without regard to the rights of the father, and one woman intent on retaliation. A combination that resulted in the complete disregard for the right of a father to raise his child, the complete disregard for the right of a child to be raised by his father, and a complete disregard for the legal system. A combination that resulted in disaster.
When she did not make Gabriel available to Logan on December 20th, she had immediately committed custodial interference. It was a little more difficult to charge the conspiracy charge because we had to show that she was acting in concert with Tammy Smith, and then she engaged in an overt act.
During this trial, you will hear from a number of witnesses. What you will not hear, however, is evidence of where Gabriel Johnson is now. And the judge has already instructed you that that is not an issue for you to consider in this case. We don't have any information to give you about where he is.
When children are involved, it's never just another trial. It certainly affects you as a prosecutor. The weight of that is large, but you do have to set your sights straight, focus on the task at hand, and push through the trial. But it certainly does affect you emotionally.
I know that already, that you are not surprised to learn that there's going to be evidence in this case that may cause you to not like Elizabeth Johnson. I know you're not surprised about that. This case isn't about whether or not you like Elizabeth Johnson. My job is to do my best to get you to focus on the elements of the crimes charged. I'm going to come back in closing argument, and I'm going to walk you through each element of each crime. And I'm going to review the evidence with you. And I'm going to say, did the state present evidence to convince you beyond a reasonable doubt of each element of each crime? That's what your job is. I'm not going to ask you to do anything more or anything less than that.
Did she tell you anything about meeting anybody in the airport who might want to adopt Gabriel?
No.
What did Elizabeth tell you on that day?
She pretty much just said that I'm never going to see Gabriel again.
Gabriel Scott Johnson was born on May 3rd, 2009. And while that baby was a source of joy for his dad, Logan McQuarrie, his mom, Elizabeth Johnson, seemed ill-equipped and uninterested in actually being a mother. So when the chance came to give Gabriel up for adoption to a woman named Tammy Smith, Elizabeth jumped at the opportunity. The only problem, she didn't have Logan's consent, and he was nowhere near on board with giving up his son.
During the time period between when Gabriel was born until about June of 2009, what was your relationship like with Elizabeth?
It was on and off. We were good sometimes and bad other times, argued.
Was there an occasion in June of 2009 where you and Elizabeth had an argument and then she took Gabriel and went to Boston?
Yes.
And then during that time period when Elizabeth came back, did she tell you anything about meeting anybody in the airport who might want to adopt Gabriel?
No.
Tammy Smith is a woman that crossed paths with Elizabeth Johnson in June of 2009 at an airport in Indianapolis on the way back from Boston. There was some sort of conversation to the effect of, you look like you might need help. I'm looking to adopt a child. Here's my number. If you think about it, give me a call.
I had never heard of a situation where someone was so forward with wanting to offer up an adoption arrangement within just a couple of hours of meeting someone.
And so Elizabeth Johnson kept her number, but it wasn't until December 9th of 2009 that she actually called her.
December 9th of 2009, that was the last day I saw him.
Tell us what happened December 9th, 2009.
Went to work, got a call from Elizabeth, and she wanted to talk to me. She kept calling the store over and over again and wanted to talk to me, and I didn't want to talk to her. I picked up the phone one time and I asked her to stop calling, and she said that we need to talk about this adoption and paperwork, and I want you to sign paperwork for adopting Gabriel out. And that was, I think that was the first time I'd heard about it.
And I was like, what are you talking about? And I said, where's Gabriel at? And she's like, he's with the people that want to adopt him. And I was like, what people?
Had you and Elizabeth had any conversations about adoption paperwork or a couple or anything about adopting Gabriel out at this point?
No.
Had you ever heard the name Tammy or Jack Smith prior to this?
No.
Tammy Smith was really obsessed. She wanted to adopt a baby. She was going to do what she could to try and adopt that baby.
What did you decide you wanted to do?
I wanted custody of Gabriel. I wanted to have my son in my life and take care of him.
As Logan's getting ready to file for custody, Gabriel Johnson is living with Tammy Smith and her husband. They change his name, take pictures of him. They start living the life as though Gabriel belongs to them.
Then on December 17, 2009, was there a custody hearing?
Yes.
At the end of the hearing, what happened?
They gave us both shared custody, and Elizabeth and I left.
And so from your understanding from the hearing, were you supposed to have Gabriel on December 20th, 2009?
Yes.
On December 18th, 2009, did you have some conversation with Elizabeth about Gabriel?
Yes. That's when I called her to make arrangements to pick him up.
And those were arrangements to pick him up on Sunday.
Yes.
What did Elizabeth tell you about Gabriel on that day?
She pretty much just said that I'm never going to see Gabriel again.
And on December 18th, 2009, she had the Smiths meet her at a church parking lot, bring her back Gabriel, who had been with them since the 9th, and she left the state.
So when you went to the home, what happened when you got there?
Walked up to the trailer and knocked on the door. Nobody was there. And the blinds and everything were open in the house. So we looked in the windows, and pretty much all of the clothes and everything was gone.
So we called her grandfather, and I called her brother, and none of them, like nobody, all of her friends, nobody knew where she was at. I was kind of scared because I thought she did run or she had moved and she just wasn't going to tell me and try to keep Gabriel from me.
So as far as Elizabeth Johnson breaking the law, there was nothing illegal about her behavior until she did not turn Gabriel over on December 20th for visitation.
What did you do on December 21st, 2009?
I think that was the day I went down to court. They gave me a piece of paper saying if I find Gabriel, then I just showed the piece of paper showing that I have temporary custody of him and I can take custody. Or if they find Elizabeth and Gabriel, then I can call the police and show them the paper and they will go get Gabriel for me and bring him to me. But the police wouldn't look for him. I had to look for him myself.
My dad's a retired police officer for the city of Phoenix. From, the time we knew Gabriel and Elizabeth were gone, he was calling people and asking around, how can we, try to locate her and stuff. And she had thrown away her phone. So we were looking for him the whole time. And then right after Christmas, that's when she texted me just out of the blue.
All right, Logan, I'm going to ask you what happened on December 27th, 2009. Why don't you start from the beginning with your first contact with Elizabeth that day?
I was at my grandmother's house. Just left my grandmother's house, and I believe I was about 10 minutes away from there, and that's when I got the first text message from Elizabeth. And the only thing she texted me was, I killed him.
During the time period that you were talking to Logan, did you have the opportunity to view his telephone?
Yes.
What did you see on the telephone?
Text messages.
And what does it say?
It says, "You will never find me. I'm already boarding a plane."
After being on the run for 7 days, Elizabeth sent Logan a horrifying text message. She described to him in detail how she had killed their son, Gabriel. It is a father's worst nightmare, and it was only just beginning.
I pulled over off the side of the road, and I grabbed the recorder that I had, and I tried calling Elizabeth over and over again. She wouldn't answer the phone, and then finally she picked up, and she just said, you know, same thing that she said in the text message. I couldn't handle it anymore, and you made me do this. You made me do this, and I suffocated our little baby and put him in a diaper bag in the dumpster. And I just kept talking to her and asking her over and over again, you know, where's Gabriel at, and where are you? And she wouldn't tell me. So I went straight to Tempe Police Station.
And at the time that Logan McQuarrie provided you with some information, did he provide you with a recorder?
Yes.
And when he provided you with a recorder, did you listen to what was on the recorder?
Yes, ma'am.
During the time period that you were talking to Logan, did you have the opportunity to view his telephone?
Yes.
And when you viewed his telephone, what did you see on the telephone?
Text messages.
And what did you do with those text messages?
I photographed them and then wrote them down on field cards.
And is this the one you indicated as number 1?
Yes.
And what does it say?
I killed him.
Can you tell us what number 4 says?
It says, you will never find me. I'm already boarding a plane out of the country. When I'm safe, I'll email you the exact location of dead Gabriel's little blue body. If the garbage don't come first.
We had limited information. We had information that obviously that Gabriel was not here, Elizabeth was gone, and really not much more than that at that point. With this investigation, certainly from the beginning, this one was unique because of those text messages and because of the implied threats to Gabriel's welfare. So the very first thing that we needed to do is we needed to do all we could to check on the welfare of Gabriel.
We attempted to call the mother of the child.
What happened during that phone conversation?
I asked her if she was okay and if her baby was okay, and she said they were fine.
Did she confirm that she was, in fact, in the state of Texas?
That's where she said she was. She was driving back for the custody hearing. I asked her if there was any exit she can pull off so we can have Texas law enforcement confirm that she was okay and her baby was okay. And she said she didn't see any exits. And I asked her if she could put the phone up next to the baby so I could hear if the baby was there and okay. She seemed like she put the phone over away from her speaking to me. I could just hear road noise or just noise in the background. And I said, well, I can't really hear that he's okay. And she said, well, you're not listening close enough then, are you?
And what happened after she made that comment to you?
The phone disconnected.
We started tracking cell phone activity, internet activity, MySpace, Yahoo, to try to learn where she was at. Our goal at that time was to just set eyes on Gabriel and make sure Gabriel was okay.
We tried pinging her phone against cell phone towers through Cricket. We got a ping near Brownsville, Texas, or off of a tower near Brownsville, which is going south and away from Arizona.
We knew that in the past couple of days she had been staying in the San Antonio area, but we still didn't know if she was there. We sent out attempts to locate to all law enforcement agencies across several states. Working with the FBI in San Antonio was phenomenal. They dropped everything to help us with this investigation.
You know, we had some information that Miss Johnson had left San Antonio on a bus, and we thought this might be a good place just to visit and see if we could get any information.
And was the name of this bus station the Tornado Bus Company?
Yes. We had a flyer of some sort, and that was shown to the gentleman at the bus station. And this individual told my partner that he had in fact seen Elizabeth Johnson.
Is this the ticket that was sold that day to the woman in the photograph that you saw?
Yes.
And that is San Antonio, Texas to Fort Lauderdale, Florida?
Yes, ma'am. She ultimately ended up in Miami, and that's where she was located at a youth hostel in that area. And she was picked up by the FBI field office in that area.
We searched the apartment for baby Gabriel, as well as anything that would indicate that he was there, diapers, baby food, anything child related, and there was nothing in there. She didn't mention Gabriel I asked her about Gabriel.
And what did you ask her?
I asked her where he was. I asked her if he was okay. You know, I wanted to know where he was at. Our sole purpose at that point was to locate the child.
And what did she tell you about Gabriel's whereabouts?
At first, she told me that she gave the baby away to someone in San Antonio at the hotel she was staying at. And then she told me later on that she gave baby Gabriel away to someone she met at a park, a couple that she met at a park. She had no recollection of any names. She couldn't tell me where the park was. She couldn't even tell me what hotel it was.
When they did arrest her, she told like 3 or 4 different stories. So we didn't know which one was the truth. We didn't know if she did give him to a random couple in a park or Tammy and Jack, you know, set up the couple, you know, take Gabriel. Nobody knows.
Once we realized that once she was in Miami, she did not have Gabriel with her. That's when we realized that we need to shout this case from the rooftops. And that's where the media really came into play. And we were able to get this out locally and very quickly nationally.
In order to get the baby away from Logan, she asked if she could put my husband's name down on that paternity affidavit.
And the police contact you?
Yes.
And
Elizabeth Johnson's story of giving her son, baby Gabriel, to strangers in a San Antonio park made national headlines. And police began a statewide search for this mysterious couple. On January 5th, 2010, KPHO TV in Phoenix interviewed Johnson by phone from her Miami Beach jail cell. Also on the call was that first couple, Tammy and Jack Smith, who had attempted to adopt baby Gabriel in Arizona. The Tempe police were given a recording of that call.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm showing you what's marked as Exhibit 134. And what does that contain?
This contains a CD with a label on it indicating that this is a Channel 5 phone call.
Ms. Ramunos, you may proceed to publish it.
Do you understand how it just doesn't make any sense to the average person that you, as this baby's mom, would hand over your child to?
Oh, I thought it happens every day. Women make these decisions all the time when they feel they can't do it on their own and they're in a corner. They do it all the time. They hand their children over. I did it before with Tammy.
Not like what you're saying. I mean, they usually go to an agency or they go to a hospital. They go to I mean, you.
No, they're private adoptions. They're in the back of the newspapers all the time.
So in your mind, you really, truly felt like you did the right thing by handing over your child to a perfect stranger.
Absolutely.
So you have no way of finding these people at all.
Not in jail, no.
She initially provided 2 stories. The first story was that the Smiths had Gabriel. Then she quickly changed her story and said that she had given Gabriel to a couple in a park in San Antonio. Neither of those stories made sense to us. Neither of them were logical.
So, in other words, you really don't know if your son is alive or not.
I know that he is.
How?
I believe that he is.
You believe that he is, but you don't know for a fact if your son is alive. You sent a text message that said you killed your son. You are telling us now you don't know who has him or where he is.
You know, I did the same thing, but giving away the baby to Tammy, and everyone, you know, no one had a problem with it. Everyone thought it was such a good thing and commended me, and I don't understand what the problem is now.
I think I joined with a lot of Arizonans at the time, thinking, why wouldn't you just tell us? Why not just say what happened? One logical reason not to say what happened is that what happened is something that you do not wish to voice because you might face the consequences for it.
I didn't know what to believe. I didn't know what to think. I got the police in one ear telling me one thing, and then you got Elizabeth, you know, telling me another thing. So is he alive? Is he dead? It was just kind of dragging me both ways.
did you meet the family that is adopting the baby or that you gave the baby for adoption to? I met them in San Antonio. I already told the FBI, the police, everybody, everything. Do I know these people? No. And I told them that. They kept asking me that too. Or do these people know me at all? No. Or Jack? No, I don't think so. I wouldn't imagine so, no. Where I'm at here is thinking that you're this huge monster and me and Jack are we plotted some kind of a kidnapping with you and, oh my God. Yeah.
During the period that Elizabeth Johnson was gone, between December 18th and when she was located in Miami Beach, Florida on December 30th, Tammy Smith was trying to convince Elizabeth to go to Tennessee, where the Smiths have property. Tammy Smith believed that if Elizabeth Johnson could go to Tennessee, Logan McQuarrie would no longer have custody rights.
Now, was there ever a point in your conversation with Tammy Smith where she acknowledged that the father was not on board?
Yes.
What did she tell you specifically about her plans in regard to the father not being on board?
That she was going to do whatever she had to do to make sure that he was going to sign those adoption papers.
They were trying to do whatever they could and create whatever hoops and hurdles that they could to make it difficult for Logan so that he would essentially give up his parental rights.
Elizabeth and Tammy came up with a plan that if they filled out numerous names on the paternity affidavit, it would create a distraction to the courts so that they could try to buy more time in order to get the baby away from Logan.
Now, did Tammy ask you anything specific about the paternity paperwork?
Yes, at that time, she asked if she could put my husband's name down on that paternity affidavit.
And did you agree to allow her to do that?
Absolutely not.
They filed a document on December 14th of 2009 naming Tammy Smith's cousin, a man by the name of Craig Cherry, as a potential father of the child. And they both knew that that was not true.
And at some point in time, did the police contact you?
Yes.
And
Elizabeth, in many ways, seemed like a damaged young woman. And when she broke down, I don't think anybody was greatly surprised. She seemed like she was on edge.
She chose not to be present in the courtroom when we played the recording.
Where are you? Where's Gabriel? No, he's not. No, you didn't.
At the center of the plot to keep Logan from his son was Tammy Smith. It's questionable whether any of the events surrounding Gabriel's disappearance would have happened without Smith's involvement. In April 2012, nearly 5 months before Elizabeth Johnson's trial, Tammy Smith found herself in court, facing charges.
With Tammy Smith, during this investigation, a lot of the investigative avenues that we looked down, we found ultimately at the end that they had her fingerprints on them.
Tammy Smith is charged with conspiracy to commit custodial interference and forgery for assisting Elizabeth Johnson in trying to interfere with Logan's custody rights and for filling out court paperwork using her cousin's name falsely on court paperwork that was filed.
And in fact, you testified that your attorney told you to put a John Doe on the paperwork.
He told both Elizabeth and I in different conversations.
A John Doe, not a Craig Cherry.
I thought a John Doe was anybody, like a name. You need to put a John Doe because watching TV, a John Doe is a name, I think. I mean.
So you thought your attorney's advice was to just pick a real person who was not the father of Elizabeth Johnson's baby and write that name
on the document?
Yes.
The evidence that we had regarding Tammy Smith in her trial included her long quest to add another child to her family. She had approached women that she perceived to be young single women in the past who looked like they needed help. She had approached couples in fast food restaurants.
To me, the most significant offense from my perspective is the conspiracy to commit custodial interference because of the effect it has on Logan and his family. And on that, I'm sentencing you to a term of 3 years of supervised probation to begin from today's date. You're going to serve a 30-day term in jail.
Tammy Smith was found guilty of both charges. She was sentenced to probation, and eventually on appeal, the forgery count got overturned.
Okay, we're outside the presence of the jury panel. Ms. Johnson's present. I understand that Ms. Johnson has said that she does not want to be here for the rest of Detective Ramirez's testimony and perhaps other evidence that's going to be produced. Is that correct, Ms. Johnson? Okay.
I just want the record to be clear. We've told her what the testimony is going to be. She understands there's going to be audio, and she's anticipating that because it's going to be emotional testimony for her, she would prefer not to be in the courtroom for that reason alone. I don't want anybody to speculate about any other possible reasons for her absence here today.
She chose not to be present in the courtroom when we played the recording of her telling Logan she had killed Gabriel.
What do you want?
Where are you? Why are you saying you killed Gabriel?
We pushed me into this night, baby.
Where are you? Where's Gabriel?
Gabriel's in the dumpster.
No, he's not.
Killed him this morning.
No, you didn't.
I suffocated him and he turned blue. I put him in his bed bag and I put him in the trash can. He knew I would do it. He pushed me anyway.
A lot happened in this trial, but the one thing, you come back to hearing her saying those words on tape, and that's the thing that sort of hangs me up always in this trial, and in this case.
Because I didn't really want to believe it. Honestly, I didn't really know what to think. Very emotional time, I guess, and just, I don't know how to really describe it.
Horrific. How a father could hear those words and live the rest of his life not knowing where his child is unimaginable.
There were two different versions given by Elizabeth Johnson in terms of what happened to Gabriel Johnson. Fair to say one version is the I killed him version. The other version is I gave him away for adoption to a couple that I met in San Antonio.
That is correct.
Mark Victor chose to do something I have never seen in 23 years of my prosecution career. He barely cross-examined any witnesses. He didn't put his client on the stand. He simply argued the law. And in fact, his trial strategy was actually quite brilliant.
Do you have any evidence to support or deny the I killed him version?
No.
Do you have any evidence to support or deny the I gave him away version?
That is the statement that she provided. And we continued with follow-up with that.
Well, let me ask you like this, Detective.
Okay.
Would it be accurate to say that as you sit here today with everything you know about the case, you don't know whether or not baby Gabriel is alive and well or not?
That is correct.
So then you don't know which of those versions is true. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. Why am I standing here? Because I want to talk to you about kidnapping. That's what this case is really about.
Nearly 3 years after the disappearance of baby Gabriel, Maricopa County prosecutors presented their closing arguments to the jury in an attempt to get justice for Gabriel and Logan. But at the end of this emotional trial, the outstanding question still remained. What actually happened to baby Gabriel? Only one person knew for sure, his mother, Elizabeth Johnson. She wasn't talking.
So on May 3rd, 2009, Gabriel Scott Johnson is born to Logan Scott McQuarrie and Elizabeth Joanne Johnson. He's given the same middle name as his father and his grandfather, and Logan is listed on the birth certificate. At this time, Logan and Elizabeth start a family. But at some point in time, Elizabeth Johnson got angry at Logan McQuarrie. And she decided that she was going to take him away from his son and exclude him from her family. And she enlisted the help of Tammy Smith, who had her own desires, because Tammy Smith wanted Gabriel Johnson for herself. And together, the two of them engaged in these acts, which led to forever altering those lives of Logan McQuarrie and Gabriel Johnson. You have heard all of the evidence you need in this case to find that Elizabeth Johnson is guilty of each and every one of the charges we've charged. Thank you.
We do not dispute the custodial interference charge. We never have. I told you about that from the very beginning. The evidence is solid against her. The state presented a solid case on the custodial interference charge. The evidence is uncontradicted. It's persuasive. Then we get to the conspiracy charge. This one I would term as shaky at best for the state. Very shaky. Now, why do I say that? I think because there's a real question here in terms of how much they actually conspired. I will leave the conspiracy to your review of the evidence.
When a defense attorney gets up and stands in front of a jury and tells the jury, we're taking responsibility for what my client did commit, so just look at this other crime which she didn't commit, it gives them more credibility. It makes the jury listen to his argument about the legal semantics of the charge.
Why am I standing here? Because I want to talk to you about kidnapping. That's what this case is really about. Here's what kidnapping is. You have them in your jury instructions. Knowingly restraining another person with the intent to place Logan McQuarrie in reasonable apprehension of imminent, not past, but imminent physical injury to Gabriel Johnson. Elizabeth Johnson's intent is entirely focused on past injury, not imminent injury. If it really was her intent to put him in fear of an imminent physical injury, maybe she would have said, I'm gonna kill him. Maybe she would have said, I'm about ready to do something, or I'm thinking of hurting him, or any of those statements would have been fine. But that's not what she said. That's not what the evidence is. That's the leap that the state wants you to make. You gotta deal with that. Really, all we got here at the end of the day is an ugly custody interference case, custodial interference, with a threat of past harm while not having Gabriel. That's it. That's the only other aspect of this case. That's why kidnapping is overreaching.
The kidnapping charge is the difficult charge. It was a difficult charge from the moment we charged it. It was a difficult charge at trial.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Have you reached your verdicts? Would the foreperson please hand the verdict forms to the bailiff?
State of Arizona versus Elizabeth Johnson. Verdict as to count 1 kidnapping. The verdict form is blank. Verdict as to count 1, lesser included. Having found the defendant not guilty of kidnapping, we, the jury, do find the defendant, Elizabeth Johnson, as to the offense of unlawful imprisonment, guilty. Verdict as to count 2. We, the jury, do find the defendant, Elizabeth Johnson, as to the offense of conspiracy to commit custodial interference, guilty. Verdict as to count 3. We, the jury, do find the defendant, Elizabeth Johnson, as to the offense of custodial interference, guilty.
Are these your true verdicts? So say you want it all?
Yes.
We were not able to prove the kidnapping charge to the jury. The jury, in the end, came back with a verdict for a lesser included offense of unlawful imprisonment. Under the kidnapping charge, she would have been in prison for 10 to 24 years.
Well, the mother of a missing Tempe baby is going to prison. The judge says he wants Elizabeth Johnson to serve another 2+ years behind bars.
And I know, Ms. Johnson, you were hoping today to walk out of here a free person, but you're not going to walk out of this courtroom a free woman today. You're not.
26-year-old Elizabeth Johnson mouthed the words, "I know," when the judge decided her future would be another 2 years, 3 months behind bars.
She received a total of 5.25 years for the custodial interference and the unlawful imprisonment charge. She had served so much time up front that by the time sentencing rolled around, she ended up serving a little over additional 2 years after that point.
What I have done is, unconscionable. What I have done is just, it's unbelievable. And it's not really anything I can say for myself because I'm sitting there and I'm seeing it all. And I would convict myself.
For us, it was hard because we knew in a very short time Elizabeth Johnson was going to be walking free, and we still didn't know where Gabriel was.
Neither the verdict nor the sentence seemed to match what the community was thinking was the gravity of this case. There's a possibly dead baby. Someone needs to account for this.
I don't think there is going to be a satisfying resolution in the baby Gabriel matter unless we can see an 11-year-old young man safe and healthy and living with some family that is taking good care of him.
Gabriel's still missing. It's 2021 now, and that was 2009. So I don't think justice was served, but I believe that the police and, Angela Andrews did a great job. I believe they did everything that they possibly could.
In the big picture, justice will truly never be served in this case until the whereabouts of Gabriel Johnson are known. And she's the only one that holds the key to that.
It is hard for me to know that Elizabeth Johnson is free. She's living her life. And yet, Logan McQuarrie and his family have to live their life never knowing what happened to Gabriel Johnson. And that weighs on me, and I think about them often.
Coping with the not knowing is very hard. People have asked me what I believe in my heart of hearts like several times over the years, and that's a very hard question because, I think about things, both ways, and it's really it's like teetering on a fence, I want to lean more towards he's alive and out there, and I want him to come home and, be found or him find us. I'm hoping it'll happen someday.
Elizabeth Johnson was released from prison in 2014 after serving not quite 17 months. In 2016, she served 20 days in jail for a probation violation. But now she lives freely in New Mexico. The search for Gabriel Johnson has been taken over by the San Antonio Police Department, and the case is still open. I'm Ashley Banfield. Thanks for watching.